All right. What's going on? Looks like we have 7 people already. Good. All right. So we're going to get started. As I said, we're going to start off promptly here, 7 o'clock. If you need to grab a drink or something like that, now's a good time. I've got my coffee myself. All right. So let's get to it. Make sure we're good to go. All right. So welcome to AP World. So 2026-27 school year. There's definitely some changes to the course itself, not just what we're doing in classrooms, but also what's happening with the class, with the test itself, that I think warrant a different approach to the way, a slightly different approach, not a largely different approach, but a slightly different approach to the way we're going to approach AP this year. So for those who don't yet know me or haven't had a chance to say hello, my name is Mr. Malvagno. Myself and Mr. Mann are likely to be your AP or world teachers next year. I say likely only because, as far as I know, we're both doing it. The only real question is whether or not Mr. Mann's doing it, and I think if my memory reminds me, I believe he was assigned a section of AP World, which is no problem. No matter who you have, our results last year were very, very good. There are some elements of the results that I am concerned about, particularly among the weaker students or the students for whom AP is a real stretch, and I want to kind of make sure those students are getting off to the right set of expectations, but also making the right decisions to improve their odds of doing as well as possible. So let me introduce the course quickly, and then I'll get into the summer assignment and what the expectations are, why the expectations are there, what adjustments I made from last year, why those adjustments had to be made, and so forth. There are going to be some differences in the way that the course runs on a day-to-day of business from the way last year went. And one of the reasons for that is going to be a response to the way things developed during the school year last year in terms of some academic dishonesty concerns and things like that, which ended up bearing the kind of fruit that we really don't want to encourage. So anyway, so AP World. AP World is technically AP World Modern. That's the name of the course. It is a change from the older AP World course, which I also taught. I've been teaching this course for, I don't know, well over a decade. I no longer remember. That's how long it's been. Anyway, so the old course used to be a combination of 9th grade and 10th grade material all in one year. And in those days, Shoreham did not have anything like an honors 9th grade pre-AP program or anything like it. So when I would get students, and it was only me in those days, when I would get students into 10th grade AP, they understood that we were on a sort of a massive undertaking where we had to cover 2 years of history at an AP level and do so in a way that would be tested in May. So we had very little time to get it done. I'm proud to say that those years, our grades were still quite good, especially in the face of other districts having very formalized, carefully constructed pre-AP programs. The course changed, I want to say, slightly after COVID. 2021-ish, 22-ish, something like that, maybe a little bit before that. I think it was like 2021. The course changed to be just basically 1200 CE to the modern day, with exceptions that there are some fundamentals or foundations, they call them, about the 9th grade material that a student must know on the AP exam. Things like the origins of Islam, things like the origins of the Chinese bureaucratic system, Confucianism, things like the origins of the Roman Empire and how it affects things like the Enlightenment and Greek and the way Greek philosophy is a part of, say, for example, scholasticism within the Catholic Church. And there's a lot of those elements. So to that end, the summer assignment morphed in those days from preparation of the students' knowledge to now being two parts: the preparation of a student's knowledge, but also what should be in effect review. Apologies for the phone. In effect, a review of what you should have covered in 9th grade. I want to make it clear, I do not teach the course any differently because a pre-AP program has existed for the last 2 years than I would have if there was no pre-AP program at all. The results that we had at Shoreham prior to the pre-AP program were extremely good. I do not yet know what effect the pre-AP program will have on 10th grade work. I only have 1 year to judge, and that's last year, and there are some concerns I have in some of the results that came out of it. Overall, the results were quite good, But like I said, there were a lot of students who probably could have gotten a 3 that did not. And I want to make it clear up front, there's never been a year, and I don't know if there ever will be a year, where every student passes the AP exam. That doesn't happen. For those who aren't familiar with the grading of the AP, the grades on the AP exam run from a 1 to a 5. A 1 is what you get no matter how poorly you do, and a 5 is the absolute best you can get. A 5 is kind of like thinking like an A 4 is kind of like a B, a C is like a 3, and a D and an F are like a 2 and a 1. Now, the AP never uses the words fail, pass, or anything like that. They use proficiency levels, like, well proficient, very proficient, highly proficient, not proficient. Regardless, take my word for it. If you have a 2, any college is going to consider that a failure. They will not give you credit for that. 3 or higher is going to be necessary for you to consider to have shown proficiency, i.e. passed the course, passed the test at least. And so that's sort of the ultimate goal we're working towards. There's a huge financial incentive. Thousands of dollars of college credit is on the line here. Something that your parents, I'm sure, would love for you to be able to bring home for them, so that way they don't have to pay that bill come college. But in addition, the more important thing, the thing I really value in the course, is this is likely going to be your first serious academic challenge. And the reason I say that is because a great many of you have, by benefit of birth, have high IQs. And as a result, you find a lot of the everyday work to be fairly easy. Things that other students struggle with, you find to be essentially below your level. And that probably is true for a great many of you. However, this course is going to change and challenge that. If you are not willing to put in the work, if you do not have yet and are not willing to develop the maturity to be an actual student, which is a very different thing than just being an observer and a participant within a classroom. You have to be an actual student. We're going to discuss even what the word student means in the summer week when you get here. If you're not willing to do that, I'm afraid to say there are no guarantees. We are on an escalator, not an elevator. There is no stopping. We are going to go full tilt all the way till May. We're going to have just enough time to finish the course and just a little bit of time for review. Your job is to be on that escalator with us. Your job is to keep up. Your job is to ensure that if I say you should do this, you do it. Not because there's a grade consequence, but because I can see the future. And I know those students who do the program we put in front of you and do it and take it seriously score well in the AP exam. And those that look for shortcuts, you could ask them yourselves, don't. So we'll leave the dirty details of the course out for now. That's something for another day. Let's get into the summer assignment. So probably the first question every student's going to have is, how long is this going to take? That's a you question. I have no idea. I know how much work is in it. I couldn't tell you how long it's going to take you. What I can say is every year we have students who take this course, and their very first interaction with the course, the summer assignment, they choose to find a shortcut. What kind of shortcuts have I encountered over the years? Well, I've had students purchase previous year's work on the summer assignment from other students, up to and including a former valedictorian, by the way, who sold somebody their work. That student was caught. That student received a 0. The valedictorian in question, I called up the school where I'd written the letter of recommendation for that student and rescinded the recommendation. Didn't stop their college enrollment, but it does mean that this is the kind of student and the way they acted. And I wasn't going to put my name behind that student in a college recommendation anymore, and I rescinded that letter. I've had instances, both last year, the year before that, of students using AI to complete large chunks of the assignment, in some cases the entire assignment, caught. Absolutely 0 on the assignment. I want to be clear. There really isn't going to be an argument, a discussion, or any kind of a policy debate. If you're engaging in academic dishonesty, I'm going to treat you the way I treat students in my Suffolk course. So if some of you may or may not know, I'm also an adjunct professor at Suffolk Community College. If a student is caught cheating there, I'm going to give you the same due process they get. And almost inevitably, it ends up with that student not really being able to prove anything other than they were cheating. And academic dishonesty is going to get a 0. It may or may not carry a disciplinary consequence. That's going to be up to the principal, not to me. That's the assistant principals who handle that stuff. I don't handle discipline. But in terms of the grade in the course, you cheat, you're getting a 0. Getting a 0 on the summer assignment pretty much means you're going to fail the first quarter. So, it's not a good way to start your experience and what is going to be a real challenge. If you have to cheat on day 1, you don't have to take the course. So, but every student is different. You're different than your peers. You're different than your siblings. You're different than mom and dad. You're different than the family dog. You should not expect to work at the level of the highest performing students in the school unless you're one of them. You should be finding the level where you're at and reaching to go above that. That's your goal for the year. All right. And I don't know what that level is. I really don't know any of you. So, we'll find out. Just because you had a 95 in pre-AP does not mean that you're a 95 student. I'm sorry. It just doesn't. Those grades do not translate. They translate for the students for whom they're real, and they don't translate for the students for whom they're not. And that's just the way it is. That's not me being critical of anybody, colleagues or students. It's just I'm going to treat blank slate. We'll see what we get when we get there, and we'll go forward from there. This is very, very different work. It's very difficult. It's a league above anything that's going on in any other classroom at the 9th grade level, and that doesn't matter if it's pre-AP or not. Like I'm telling you, this is a different level of challenge. So just be aware of that up front. I want everybody to be very clear. Okay, so what is the actual assignment? What's it composed of? So one of the reasons I want to go over this is because I want to kind of go through it with you. And if I notice anything egregiously wrong, a typo, mistakes obviously happen. I'm prone to them myself. I want to make sure I correct it before I post it to the Google Classroom. But there are 4 parts to the assignment. Part 1, 2, 3, and 4. Part 1 is a pass-fail mark. I'll show you that in a moment. Either all the work is done to a good standard or it's a 0. That's it. Now, there's a lot of individual pieces in part 1. I want to be clear. There's only 2 grades on part 1. 0 or full credit. There's no other grades. So if you miss one item out of 30, you just leave it blank. And you go, well, I did the other 29 items. Am I really getting a 0? Absolutely, yes, you are. It's a pass-fail mark. Either all the work is done to the correct standard or it's not. All right, simple as that. Part 2. Each portion in part 2 gets its own grade. This is a normal grade, meaning that, some of it you're going to get a sort of a credit on. Some of it you're not going to get credit on because you don't do the correct work or the work is wrong or whatever it might be. We'll go over that as well. And then 3 and 4, as you'll see, is effectively a 0 to 100 scale. I'll show you how that works. Part 4 is very clearly a 0 to 100 scale. Again, I'll show you in a moment. So let's start with a couple of things right off the bat. All of the assignments, again, 4 parts, all of the assignments, with exception of part 3 and 4, so part 1 and part 2, half of it, as you'll see, part 4 isn't really an assignment, okay? So there's sort of 3 assignments, part 1, part 2, part 3. Part 3 is going to be handwritten. We'll get to that in a minute. Part 1 and 2 are handed in online via Google Classroom. You're going to make a single Google Doc to do this. Now, you don't have to make a Google Doc for part 1. I'll show you what I mean about that in a minute. But for part 2, you absolutely do. Either way, you're going to do all your work in that assigned Google document. The reason is very, very simple. See right here is a typo. I want to fix it. We'll go over this in our summer assignment video. That's this one. This is a requirement. You must work in the Google Docs. You cannot paste from any other source. I don't want anything pasted into your work. If I see a paste, you could see a paste. Yes, I could see a paste. We'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to assume you're cheating. You type all your work into the document directly that you submit to me. No other file should exist for this work. You type it directly in. The reason is simple. It helps to prevent academic dishonesty. If you have any questions by this, my email is there. Do not use the Google email. Do not use the jmailvagnew@swrschools.org email, I think it is. A huge chunk of the staff does not use that email. On the other hand, I know some chunks of the staff don't use this email. That email is supposed to forward to this email, but sometimes the school resets the email code or something. Sometimes it doesn't work. This is my email. This is what I check. It's what I check in the summer. Please do use it if you have a question. I'd prefer questions come directly to me because if you send me, this is something I don't think students realize. If you send me a message via Google Classroom, what I get on my phone is a notice. You have a comment in Google Classroom. Okay, if I hit that notification, it does not show me anywhere in Google Classroom where this comment is. It could be a private comment attached to a file. It could be a response to, I have no idea. Some student signed up for the course literally 6:51 tonight, and they sent me a comment, and I had to go fish around to find where that comment was. And even now, I only noticed the comment because of the timing. I saw a 6:51 post, and I saw this comment at like 6:50. So do not use Google Classroom for communication with me. It is a useless platform for that purpose. Simply send me an email. I check them at least once a week during the summer. I try to check them more often than that if I can. Again, there's no partial credit. I'll explain what that means when we get to each of these items. Incomplete does not exist. Work is to be completed to an AP standard, or it receives no credit. There will be no spelling errors. You have the time and ability to correct all spelling errors. It's what I'm doing. It's what I expect you to do. And very few, if any, grammar errors. Now, a lack of, good grammar, run-on sentence, that stuff's all very forgivable, because you might do that without realizing you're doing something incorrect. But what I don't want, and what you must not do, you must not use AI in any format to correct any of this. No Grammarly, no Copilot, none of that. No Gemini, none of it. If you use a program and you say, oh, could you make that sound more formal, and hit that button, the moment you hit that button, you have AI'd the entire statement. It will trigger every AI detector I use, and I do use them, and I use the paid ones, not ZeroDoc and Quillbot and all that. No. I have access to Suffolk Community College's Turnitin.com AI checker, and I use that. So please, do not put yourself in a position where, because you didn't want to go through and actually look up the right way to spell a word, that doesn't mean you can't use a spell check. For example, if I were to go in right now and spell requirement wrong, right? I can use this, and that will not trigger AI. That's not AI. That's just fixing it. Okay. But if I go up here and hit Gemini, or I go to something like Gemini over here, and I ask Gemini to do stuff to help add new text or something like that, that is going to AI the paper. Do not do that. I want your authentic work and your authentic voice. If it's an AI, we have a problem. I want to point to the bold statement here. It matters. It's serious. You have decided to register for this course. This course is not mandatory. New York State does not require you to take AP World History Modern. By choosing to do so, you're saying that you're ready to attempt the course. I am not expecting anybody to be ready to do the course. I don't know, and you don't know. We'll find out. But what I am expecting is that you will understand what I'm saying here. This is not a course written by Shoreham nor by me. This is a course written by a private company known as College Board. These are the same company that owns the SAT. They decide the course standards. They develop the test. They grade everything. All I can do is use my expertise to help you do well at their curriculum. So if I die tomorrow, whether you have me as a teacher, Mr. Mann as a teacher, anybody it doesn't matter. The course is the same. The standards are the same. You'll have to get to the same level by May to take the exam, regardless of who's teaching you. Now, I am confident in saying that I do a very excellent job at preparing you for this test, and students who do the things I ask almost always do well. But I cannot promise anything to anybody. I can't promise any particular grade. I cannot promise you will pass. I am one component of your success in this course, and it's a minor component. You are the majority of the reason you're going to be successful or not. So please take my words seriously. You are the reason you succeed or not in this course, because it takes two things that I can't teach. I can't teach dedication, and I cannot teach maturity. So I can give you all the instruction you like, but if you don't bring those things to the table on your own, or you don't develop them as the year goes on, I can't force you to drink the water. I can only lead you to it. So there we go. All right, now the actual assignment pieces. So I'll go through all this stuff here. We'll leave that alone for a minute. Here we go. Let's get to this part. Your assignment summary. So 4 parts: AP World Summer Key Terms, document analysis, regional reports, and then finally the scary one to be taken in September, on or about September 11th, depending upon how the week works out, a summer assignment exam based on the summer assignment reading/work. So I'll be honest with you up front. Point you to the bold element there. Completion of the summer assignment will require about 50 pages of reading per week. So, if you take the weekends off, that's 10 pages a day. I don't think that's onerous. You probably think that's insane. For many of you, I'm going to suspect you've never read a textbook once, unless you consider reading a textbook, skimming for blue words and writing the words that come after it, and or asking the AI to read the book for you and tell you what it says. So that's a problem. Now, I realize you don't do things unless you're assigned them. Fair enough. I don't blame you for this. But the skill of reading a text, taking notes on a text, understanding a text, processing a text, understanding what's the important bits, what's the not important bits. We're going to have another summer video about that probably next week. I am not promising it's going to be pleasant. Is it necessary? Oh, yes, it's necessary. And moreover, everything you're covering is stuff that should have been in the 9th grade course. Like every single piece of it should have been in 9th grade. So nothing you see here should be new. Now, there might be more detail than you're used to. There might be more complex ideas than you're used to. The language of the textbook is likely going to be a challenge for some of you. We'll get over that as well when we do our summer AP week, if you're coming to that. We're going to talk about those types of things. But in terms of what is in there, what is covered, everything in here should have been in 9th grade. 9th grade was supposed to go from sort of the dawn of humanity, let's call it the Neolithic Revolution, all the way up to the year 1750. Now, I don't know to what extent any individual 9th grade class got there, but that's what the state requires. Now, I don't think most 9th grade classes are getting that far, nor do I need them to get that far, but the material you see here should, and we stopped well short of 1750 in the summer assignment. The material you see here are things that theoretically should have been made familiar to you, at least in the general sense of it. Okay, so what are these parts? Let's start with the key terms. Rather than read all these little things, let me just show it to you. Here it is. So what you're going to do is, and you can type in this. This is to be typed in. Each one of you is going to get assigned a copy of this document through the through Google Classroom. You'll be given your own copy. On your copy is where all work needs to go. So you just take these elements here and you just go ahead and kind of go in and erase them and type in your answer, okay? In gray there, I explain the nature of the answer. Now I use the word definition, but I want to use it in a very loose sense. You're not just strictly defining. In some cases, you're going to be pointing out what is important and what matters. Now, every term here is in the textbook. Every term. Your textbook, might as well segue to that, is also going to be made available through Google Classroom. It is an online digital text. Here it is. No one's expecting you to read all 1,000 pages, not during the summer anyway, but you do have to get through the first 18 chapters. This is all to be read, all of it. The little insets like this, the maps, the map captions. This stuff here is all pre-chapter 1, and then you get into chapter 1. And the stuff that we're talking about is in this reading. You may find that these little insets on the side here, these kind of, I don't know what you call them, these like swirly out things here, often really, really, really good information is found in them. They often summarize things very well. You're going to have to go through. Not every term is bolded. I think, in fact, most of them are not. In fact, a lot of terms are too big to be bolded. So, for example, nomad, band, these to me are not useful. This is part of vocabulary that's not itself vocabulary. So for me, something like the Paleolithic era and hunters and gatherers, why do I have a slash between them? What I'm saying is I need you to look at the Paleolithic era, focus on hunter and gatherers, and talk about that. I don't want your answer to go beyond the shape and size of this box. It should be no larger than this box. I see this as one well-written or compound sentence or two shorter sentences that make up roughly the same amount of space in which you paraphrase. You cannot quote. It cannot be textbook wording. You have to paraphrase. I've described for you what a paraphrase is right here. You have to paraphrase the material in the text to demonstrate your understanding of the concept, okay? Now, the Neolithic Revolution is probably an entire chapter. I need you to give me that 1 to 2 sentence summary of it, and I need you to cite page and paragraph where you're getting what is going to be the heart of your answer. Now, something like Neolithic Revolution might be something you build over a course of an entire chapter, but where you find to be the most prominent or most important piece of information or the heart of the issue is best explained, That's where I want you to cite page and paragraph number. Okay, so please do follow this format. It is a requirement. Again, you must work entirely in this document. You cannot cut and paste from any other document. I don't want to see that. What do you mean see that? Well, I'll show you an example of what I mean. Here are two statements written about Google Docs. Okay? You're going to find, as I click back and forth, they are in fact identical. Slight difference in wording, revise versus review, but other than that, they are identical. One is AI, one is not. They're identical. How can one be AI and one be not? Well, it's simple. Here's how I could tell the difference. If this is the only document you were allowed to utilize, this was last edited 37 minutes ago. All the documents that you are getting through Google Classroom, I am the owner of the document. This is how I caught people buying and selling previous year's work. So if I click on this and I go to the original blank version of the document, when the document was made 6:17 p.m., about an hour ago, and I click on it here, oh, look, the whole thing shows up in one big blob. That's a cut and paste. That's all that happened there. You'll see that there's no detail to any of it. And it just sat there, and about 30 minutes later, it saved it again, and nothing's changed. This is a cut and paste job. This is AI, where everything came from another source and was just dumped in here. Now, if you're working only in the Google Doc itself, your Google Doc won't look like that. Your Google Doc will look much more like this. Well, there's only two things there, but no, there's not. See, this has a little drop down there, expand the detail. These are all the little edits I made as I went along. For example, and I even put this in here for the express purpose of having it be removed later on when I decide to take it out. So this is what an authentic piece of work looks like, where a person types it out. Now, if you type very quickly, and I type very quickly, if you type very quickly, you're going to add large chunks of information before it saves, so it will look like large chunks are appearing. But that won't stand up to scrutiny over a long series of definitions like this. This will be full of starts and stops and changes and things like that. Like if I look at the history right here, we're going to see that I just changed all this, put it back, etc. Mr. Mann was in here yesterday taking a look at it. I asked him to take a look at it and give me a seal of approval. So you can see all that. Now in yours, it's just going to have your stuff on it because it's going to be your copy. So really important you recognize that this is going to show a blow by blow, line by line, edit by edit for all of these various terms. And there are a substantial sum of these terms. And you'll see right here, like I changed it. I said, I don't want Brahmin dominance. I don't like that one. I'm just going to cast system. So even some of this document, my edits are in there. Just so you see, because this is, again, a copy I saved for Mr. Mann to take a look at. But that's what we're going to do. That's how we're going to do it. You're going to find I'm not against AI as a principle. In fact, I think AI is extremely useful. I probably have about 6 or 7 AI subscriptions to various things, and I use them all the time. But what you need is the wisdom to not use AI as a replacement for your brain. And unfortunately, the temptation is very strong there. And so I have to lack of a better phrase, save you from yourself by making it as difficult for you to do that as possible. So that way you don't take the risk of getting caught. I won't sit here and pretend I've caught every student who's ever cheated in my classrooms. No, but I have caught some. And what I've learned also is many students also take great exception to having other students cheat in the class when they're not. And you could expect pretty much guaranteed that they're going to rat you out. Someone's going to rat you out because they're going to get really resentful of the fact that in what is ultimately a competitive course, they're working hard and you're cheating. And if you think that that's something that's going to stay quiet, it always makes its way back to the teachers, I promise you. Don't do it. It's not worth it. All it proves is you're not ready. You don't have to do this course. I don't want to run into a problem with it, but every year there are problems. I'm trying to curtail them before they begin. So those are your key terms. Again, we'll do another night where I show like what I expect on this, but what I wrote is what I expect. And you can read all this stuff here for yourself. So that's part 1. You got to complete all of these terms. There are 5 per chapter, and you got to type it out. So the best way to do it, we'll talk about in a minute. You're actually going to try to knock out several things at the same time, and we will get to that. If you're wondering, is this more work or less work than last year? It's actually less. It's actually less. The students from last year may tell you different, but that's not true. It's actually a good deal less work than last year. However, I want to focus on certain things, and so certain things look bigger and others look smaller. Okay? So that's number 1. Part 2. Part 2 is a document analysis. Now, what this is, there's going to be 4 documents posted on Google Classroom. There's going to be an article by a guy named Jared Diamond called The Worst Mistake in the History of the Human Race. That's document 1. There's going to be a small little reading from the excerpts of Sima Chan's Grand Histories. You have to read that and comment upon it. And again, some of this stuff, like, you're going to have to know something. Like, there's nothing in the document, for example, in the excerpt from Sima Chan's Histories, there's nothing in there that describes what a Taoist would think about anything or what a Confucian would think about anything. My hope is you know what Taoists and Confucians think because you were taught it last year. Maybe. Let's say you weren't. Well, you have a textbook. So as you get to the parts in the textbook that cover this stuff, you're going to want to not just do key terms. You're going to say, all right, there's a document about China and Sima Chan. I need to understand Confucius and Taoists and make sure I understand how they think. Okay, now I'll go do this part here. So you really want to be knocking out, like, efficiently several different parts of this assignment at a time. You don't just want to leave it for the end. Like, you don't want to just do one and then do part 2 and then do part 3. You really want to kind of be pulling it apart and doing it all at the same time. Document 3 is the Pact of Umar in 2 versions. You're going to want to do this out at around the time when you are looking at you're going to want to look at the time you're reading about Islam. And then the debate on salt and iron is actually another of a Chinese document. So there's actually 2 documents from relatively speaking, Han China, debate of salt and iron, and Sima Chan's Histories are both from Han China. Jared Diamond's document is about the Neolithic Revolution. You could kind of do that right away. And then the Pact of Umar in 2 versions is Islam. None of these documents are particularly long. The Jared Diamond one is the longest by a lot, and it's not really long. I think it's a page and a half. It's a smallish article, and that's more or less it. The others are primary sources. You're to answer the questions here as they're written. Again, do I expect you know what a literati is? No. No, I don't expect anybody in the class knows what the word literati means. Thankfully, you can look that up. Fantastic. Technology is wonderful. So these are things that you're going to want to look at, all right? And some of these are like, well, what do you know about today's debates on free markets versus government control of industry? Probably you know nothing. Brilliant. Look it up. So that's what I mean about, like, having to take on the responsibility of your own learning, which is what a student does. A student is responsible for their own learning. My job is I'm the compass, right? My job is to point you in the direction of useful things and suggest that, hey, you want to go that way. That's the useful way to go. That way gets the most benefits. But I can't make you walk that route. Like, you have to do it. So take my word for it. These documents will all be used during the school year. We're going to talk about them. So they're going to be featured. Each one will feature in a different class throughout the year for sure. So do that. That's part 2. Now, this stuff here is more or less informational. Like, when we talk about this course, these are the regions we talk about. We use the names of regions. I'll talk about East Asia, South Asia, the Middle East, Eurasia, Afro-Eurasia. You got to get used to that. Like, Latin America means a certain thing. South America means a certain thing. The Middle East includes parts of Africa and parts of Asia, and theoretically, depending on how you want to view it, is Asia Minor part of Europe? I don't know, but Turkey's in the European Union, so who really knows? So there are these elements there, okay? So these are things that you want to, like, this is how the course is organized. It's an official AP College Board map for the course. This is how we organize our thinking, okay? Those regions you want to become familiar with, they might get tested on the exam in September. Part 3. This is notorious. Students generally don't like this. That's okay. I don't put it in front of you because you like it or don't like it. I put it in front of you because it's necessary. These are regional reports. Now, what this is the course is broken into what's called learning objectives, and there are several. I've taken the first 4 learning objectives from each of the regions in the fundamentals part of the course. In other words, the course assumes that you know the fundamentals of the world before 1200 in each of the various regions of the world. So, for example, not every region here, but we don't do North America, for example, but the Mediterranean world, I did all of Africa as one, the Middle East, South Asia, East Asia, and the ancient Near East. I have a regional report for each of them. Each one is 2 pages with blanks, and you fill out by hand the questions that need to be answered. Again, you're going to want to do that alongside that work. So let me show you what I mean by that. Let me pull that up over here, and I'll show you one of the regional reports, and that'll make a little more sense. No one's put anything in the chat as a question yet. I'm assuming that's okay. You're just all listening and kind of taking it all in. All right, so here's a regional report. Oh, I think it's on my other computer. Darn it. Okay, they look something like this. I've changed them for this year, but they look something like this. I forgot I was prepping at Microsoft Word, but they look something like this. So you're going to get a sheet. It'll actually have the question right on it. So I decided to make it a little bit more organized for this year than I have in previous years. There isn't one blank sheet for everybody or everything. There's individual sheets for each region. It'll be labeled for you, and you just put your name on it, and then you write your answer. Roughly speaking, though, the format's the same. Learning objective A will be a specific question, and then you'll answer the question handwritten. This will be handed in to me when the summer assignment is due, which will be on or about September 11th. I have to check the calendar. I try to have like a certain number of days during, once the school year begins for it to be due. For a lot of reasons, some students join the course late. They join it in the middle of the summer. If there is any last minute questions, there's a lot of reasons why. All right, but I try not to make it. It's not going to be due the very first day of class. That's not what we do. All right, the first few days of school, as you know, being in the high school for a year, are kind of messed up anyway. There's a million meetings and assemblies and half days and freshman day and blah blah blah. It'll be due like the second week. Anyway, how do you get the sheets you need to handwrite it? Well, there's two ways. One, you print it, which you're welcome to do. There are, as I said, I think 5 regions. They're right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regions, excuse me. And these are the chapters that tend to correspond with those regions. So you can get your answers from any or a combination of these things. And in many cases, it's not like specific to a chapter. It's more broad overall. It's about East Asia as a generalized thing, not any one specific part of East Asia. So when you're in these chapters, you're going to want to be looking for answering the regional reports as you go. No, it's not in order, but I gave you this master list of chapters and the regions they link up to. Darn, I really wish I had my other. I don't have. It's in my other textbook. I don't have it. I'm sorry, my other laptop. I don't have it on this computer. So when I post the assignment later tonight, I'll make sure those regional reports are put there. You can look back and see what I mean by this. But they look roughly like the last one, and so you can print each one if you want. It's 2 pages a piece times, like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you prefer, next week, maybe even tomorrow, I'm going to be in the area of the school. I'm going to go and print out a bunch of these, and I'll see who I can leave them with. I don't know the situation right now. I don't know if it's guidance. I don't know if it's A-Wing. I'll find out where I'm leaving them. Maybe the main office will let me just plop them in a box in the mailroom, and you guys can get them if you want. That's going to be up to you. I'll staple together packets of them. So if you don't want to go through the trouble of printing it yourself, I think, again, it's like 12 pages, but if you can make them front and back, it's even less, But if you really don't want to print them, that's fine. You can pick them up that way. No digital work on this section. None. 0. It must be handwritten. Must be handwritten. And again, in addition to these regional report sheets, I would recommend strongly, be taking notes on the reading as you go. We will do a video, again, probably next week sometime, on what note-taking looks like. There are different ways to take notes. Your mileage may vary. Some people love one format. Some people love another format. What I will say is, in general, the purpose of notes is to reflect upon something before you read it, reflect upon it as you're reading it, and re-reflect on your reflections after you've read it. The goal is not to write a bunch of information down. I've had students, very high-performing students, who will have, 5 pages of notes, 10 pages of notes, 14 pages of notes for one chapter, and that's insanity. That is not functional. That's not note-taking. That's anxiety management. That's you wanting to feel like you've done enough work that you can sleep at night. That's a different problem. We're going to work on that too. Don't worry. And in many of those cases, I've had those students, I've told them, you must submit your notes next chapter, and if they exceed 4 pages, you're getting a 0 on the quiz. And lo and behold, they did better on the quiz. So trust me, I know what we're doing. I know how to make it work. I know how to fix almost any problem that comes along in the course. So take the lead I give you and do the things I say, and you'll see. And then finally, part 4. Part 4 is this exam. It is a full 35-question multiple choice exam, and it will be on the chapters covered. I will give, when we get closer to the end of the summer, a sort of a weighted breakdown of the chapters. Not every chapter is going to be equally featured in the quiz in this exam. Not every chapter gets equally. For example, the chapter on the Neolithic Revolution might have 2 questions, whereas the chapter on Islam might have 5, because it's just more important for the overall exam. So that's what I mean by that. And I think that's that's it. That's the whole thing. So it may seem like a lot, and certainly if you decide to sort of wait and delay and procrastinate on it, it will be a lot. There's no doubt about it. Your right way of handling it is to, and you know what, I'm probably not going to even post it until late tonight or tomorrow, because I do have to get my other laptop, which is not here right now with me. So I don't want to put it up in parts. So tomorrow it'll all be posted by tomorrow morning very early, or tonight late. And I recommend starting, like getting on it, okay, like breaking it down, looking at it. What do I need to do? How do I need to do it? You can work with other people. I have no problem with that. I don't want identical answers, but you can work with other people. I obviously couldn't stop you if you wanted to anyway, so go ahead and take advantage of that fact. What you should not do, I can't stop this, but what you should not do is do some weird work exchange where, oh, you do chapter 1 and I'll do chapter 2. Great, you know half the material. That's not going to work. It's not going to work. If you think the goal is completing the material, you've already started the course in the wrong way. The purpose of the course, more than anything else, it doesn't matter about history. The purpose of this course is to become a better thinker and a real student. That is new for, I'm going to say, 100% of you. Because either the challenge has never been there, and thus no work was necessary, but you're more than willing to do it, or you've managed to get by in one way or another, and it's good enough, and you're here now, and you're not even sure quite why. This course is going to challenge all those expectations. I say this every year. It's a scary thing, but I do mean it. I hope all of you have been told your whole life you're smart. I hope you have. But what does that mean? Like, if you look in the mirror and you have to find out, are you ready to do that? Because that's a very difficult thing to do. To go into a piece of work knowing that you may not be ready for it, which is perfectly understandable. This is not a criticism, by the way. If I put you as a 10th grader on the starting line of the football team, the varsity football team, and your job is to defend your quarterback, and you're facing it off against 18-year-old men who could crush you because you haven't developed physically yet and they have. Why do you think the brain works any differently? It does not. Some of you will hit your stride at different times than others. Look, I got it. Where did I put it? Where did I put it? I got to find it. Someone remind me. I have my... Where did I put it? I have my... I thought I had it right here. This is... That's my 9th grade report card. Okay? What did I get in social studies? Global studies, 85. On the Regents in Global 2, in 10. Oh, this is my whole transcript from college, actually. Global 2, Regent score. I'm gonna hide that because later on in the year we're gonna have a little contest about that. But let's just say it's not the kind of score you'd expect an AP World teacher to do. I didn't take a single AP World class in the entire thing. Not one AP once in high school. My Global Studies 1 was 85. Global Studies 2 was an 88. U.S. History was an 89. And American Government and Constitutional Law. American Government at a 91. That's senior year. Constitutional Law at a 96. And Psychology at a 95. Now, why is that? Because I actually turned on my brain. My brain turned on its own in my senior year. I didn't control that. I just suddenly felt much smarter. I suddenly felt a lot more capable. It's like seeing that kid who is this tall in 10th grade, and I come back in 11th grade, and the kid's taller than me. What just happened here? The brain can do the same thing. So it may be no fault of your own that you're just not quite ready for this course. That's not a critique. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't take it. You should always do things that are hard. Nothing worth doing is easy. But you have to understand what hard means. Hard means you might fail at it. Otherwise, what's the point? It's not valuable if you can't fail at it. You can't respect your own work if it's not possible for it to be poor. So, I'm looking forward to this. I always do every year. This course is my favorite to teach. It's what I went to college to learn how to do. I'm highly passionate about it. I am a world historian by training. All my goofy knickknacks back there are proof of that. So, yeah, I encourage everybody, student, parent alike, ask students from last year what they thought. Here's what I would suspect. I would suspect the vast majority, there's probably one or two who wouldn't, but the vast majority would say they're very pleased with the results from the course. I would bet even the ones who didn't pass the AP exam would say they would still do it all over again. Because the lesson of this course is not AP credit. The lesson of this course is how to become a better thinker, how to become a proper student. So, and with that said, I think we're going to have a good year. I'm really excited and looking forward to it. There's an awful lot of you, so hopefully we have the smartest SHORM class ever, and everything will go nice and easy. All right, so I'm just going to check the live chat to see if anybody had any questions. There are. Do you know what hours? Okay, so that's a good question. One, what is the summer week schedule? Well, I'll tell you, I don't know. I can tell you in the past, in general, they've started around, I don't want to lie, I want to say around 9:30 in the morning was the earliest. And part of that was because the schedule had to be built around sports and I think around musical rehearsal. Sounds right. I don't actually know what specifically will be those starting and end dates times. Look, you might be in a situation where you're coming halfway from a practice or you got to bail 10 minutes, or that's fine. That's fine. The goal is to show up and get a taste for what it's like. And I think it'll benefit everybody to do so. And as far as I was told, there's a great many signups, like a whole bunch. So fantastic. I'm looking forward to everybody being there. I am teaching all of them for what it's worth, no matter who you have during the school year, whether it's me or Mr. Mann. And by the way, I don't need to say this. Mr. Mann is a professional, but last year there were some students who expressed concern that, well, Vagno has taught this for a million years, and Mr. Mann has only taught this twice. I'm concerned that Mr. Vagno's grades will be far, far better than Mr. Mann's grades. Spoiler alert, his grades were better than mine last year. Okay? So just to show that we work as a team, there's a reason we work as a team, everybody gets effectively, I won't say the same experience, but very similar experience. And again, your mileage may vary. Mr. Mann had a very successful year last year in his grades. He had an overwhelming number of 5s in his class. So whatever he did went well. So let's not have any of this stuff. You might be better off with him. You might prefer his style. Well, I have no idea. But as far as I'm aware, I do have 2 of the classes. Mr. Mann has 1 of the classes. What time, what part of the day, when they're happening, we have no idea. We don't control that stuff as teachers. But let's not have any concerns about that. For what it's worth, for the summer portion of this, I do all the summer classes. So no matter what, you get some taste of me. You might decide, I hate that guy. I hope I get Mr. Mann. You might decide, hey, I like that guy. I want to stay in the course. You might decide, I like that guy. I like the course, but man, this seems like a lot of work, and I don't think I'm going to do it. That's fair. I mean, you might be very busy. I've had kids who don't take AP World, not because they couldn't do it. They're perfectly capable. But they're like, look, I've got sports, I got dance, I got twirl, I got this, I got that, I travel this, I do that, my parents this, I have a job. I have no time for you, Malvagno. Fair enough. I mean, really, fair enough. So that's that. Compared to the, how hard would you put, okay, that's a good question. How hard is this compared to the APs? I don't want to, let me not, you're going to find I'm a huge believer in data. I like statistics. I'm a big believer in data. So let me show you. AP total registration, AP scores. I'll just show you how hard it is comparatively. How about that? We'll do it that way. Here are all the AP scores from last year for all tests taken globally. So it's not our school, it's all the tests globally. So if I were going to look at difficulty, I'd look at it in 2 ways. One, lowest percentage. I'm sorry, my camera is out of focus, and I'm only now realizing that, and it's driving me nuts, and I keep looking at it. Let me fix my focus. Otherwise, I'm going to get real salty. There we go. Sorry, that was bothering me. Okay. If I was going to look at difficulty, I'd look at 2 things. One, what percentage of students pass? So you see this column 3+, that's the percentage that passed. The second thing I'd look at is, okay, of those students that pass, how much is there a bell curve? In other words, do most students clump around a 3? That's what you expect to see. Is there like a big couple of tails? Like, are there a lot of 1s and a lot of 5s? Like, in other words, do kids either know what they're doing or they're doomed? Like, what's the distribution, right? So here are 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You can see for yourself. Again, I want to dispel some notions. We have to manage expectations in this course. I always get an A on everything. Oh, you're not here. You're not. I'm sorry to tell you. Only 20% of kids who took Physics 2 got a 5. These are probably the smartest kids in all of AP. They're taking Physics 2. That's a very difficult course. And only 20% of them, 1 out of every 5 of them, got a 5. I can't stress this enough. There's 330,000 kids around the world who took AP World last year. Every one of them thought they were smart. Everyone was told they were smart. Everyone was an honor student in their school. Like, every one of them. And a huge proportion aren't going to pass. So just keep that in mind. Like, manage expectations. 5s are not normal. So if I were to click on the 3+, where does World sit on this particular thing? All right. The lowest. Okay. Well, it's real low. Okay. Turns out the 2 courses I teach are the hardest. Or among the hardest. Stats hard. But I mean, in terms of when you get out of the leave music theory alone, that's its own thing. When you get out of the mathematics and you get down to anything else, because this is every test, right? You can see this, how it goes. The 2 courses I teach are the hardest. Macroeconomics and AP World have the lowest percentage of passing. Only 66% of students passed. That's it. So you can figure 44% failed. All right. Now, let's look at AP World particularly. Here are the results for the last few years. You can see last year, the year before, and the year before. You can see roughly since COVID. 2020 COVID is a weird test. Ignore that one. Go up from there. At the highest possible point of the last 6 years of testing, a 5, an A on the exam, happened maximum 15% of the time. That's nothing. That's nothing. 15 kids out of every 100 got a 5. That is a very small proportion. Very small. Last year, a lot of students got a 4. A lot. That's very good. A lot less students got a 3. Now, you can see that 3s typically are going to be higher than 4. Why last year's 4s were high? Couldn't tell you. What I can tell you is they have changed the exam for next year. The exam itself will have some differences. So there's going to be a major revision to next year's test. It is a major revision. So a little bit that we'll find out what happens. 8% got a 1, which is low. I mean, very few kids outright got a 1. But this 26%, again, every college considers a 2 a fail. So if you add up 1 and you add up 2, there are 36%. Did I do that right? 8 plus 6, sorry. 34% of all students failed the exam. 34%. That's over 1 in 3. Failed the exam. It's a huge number. All right. So how does it compare? It's only the hardest one. That's it. And by the way, of course, it's the hardest one. It's the one that 10th graders take. It's the one that 10th graders take, right? Of course it's hard. You're not fully developed yet. Again, if I put you on the varsity football team and make you protect the quarterback, the odds are highly strong, very strong. You're getting hurt. Like you're telling me right now that you're able and ready to start working at a 13th grade level today. Most people can't do that. Now, I can give you the tools to help you get there. And you have to get there by May. But we start there. Like, we're here. The standard never drops. The standard day 1 is going to be the same standard that exists in May when you take the exam. Your job is to gradually rise and meet that standard. That's your job. I don't expect anybody to come out in the first weeks of the class and be very good at this course. I expect most people do pretty badly. It's historically what happens. But over time, you adjust, you improve, and we get there. All right. Any other questions? Looks like no. Those are 2 good questions. Thank you for asking them. But again, I would ask that you don't trust me, don't believe me. Ask others. Ask other students. Ask parents. Ask my seniors. Ask graduates. Ask yourself why. I believe you would find the course, myself, and I won't speak for Mr. Mann, but I suspect you'll find in general, most people are quite happy with the result, regardless of the number on the paper. They're happy they had us. They're happy they did this course. They're happy that it prepared them for the next steps of learning. So I can promise you, if nothing else, you'll come out of this course a much stronger learner than you ever went into the course being. All right, so with all that said, I'm going to stop there. I promised about 45 minutes. It's about right there, a little bit longer than that. And I'll see you guys next week. I'll post the assignment tonight or tomorrow morning early, and everything will be in there. And I'll have the regional reports. If there are questions, again, email me. Even if you think everybody's going to want to know the answer, email me. If I think everybody should know the answer, I'll make a post about it. Thanks a lot, everybody, and I'll see you next week with another video.